use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, as always, at least most of the time. And with me, as always, in the TARDIS, everybody's favorite partner in time, none other than, wait for it, Jesse Jackson.
Hello, Charles. I think you're always in the TARDIS as well, and you're everyone's favorite.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think you're the favorite, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. So,
yeah.
So how are you doing today, Jesse?
I'm doing well. Friday, I had the port taken out. So
yes, you got some good news. So
absolutely,
you got your port out, and no complications from that procedure.
None whatsoever.
Excellent.
And so that's great news.
Prognosis is good.
Absolutely. And
yes,
the boy, Chris Jackson, got engaged.
Yes, I saw that. Congratulations.
Yes. So
you must be a very proud papa right now.
I am very proud. She is a huge Game of Thrones fan. And so she's got at least a little bit of geek in her.
So she's worthy of the family.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm excited.
That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah. And how are things there up in Ohio?
They are all right.
Okay.
We're doing okay. My cat Keiko is a little under the weather. We're having to take her to the vet tomorrow, but hopefully she's going to get a little ultrasound to make sure everything's okay, but fingers crossed, hopefully everything's okay. So
sounds good.
We're just little concerned parents right now.
Absolutely, you should be. Yeah.
But other than that, things are going well. Looking forward to talking some Doctor Who with you.
Absolutely.
As here we are at episode 98, getting closer to 100.
So close.
Yes. And so tonight we're going to talk about The Time of the Doctor. And this was, of course, the 2013 Christmas special written by Stephen Moffat. And it's also Matt Smith's last episode. So it's kind of continuing our theme of regeneration stories. For those who haven't quite caught on yet, I don't know how that one's missed you, but
yes,
it's been pretty obvious, really. So, but this was directed by Jamie Payne, and of course stars Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor in his final appearance, and Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald in this story. So, looking forward to talking about that with you.
Yes, not her final appearance.
No, not at all, because obviously she goes on. And actually has a couple more seasons with Peter Capaldi incoming 12th Doctor.
Absolutely.
Who makes his debut, a full official debut, not just his eyebrows, in this story. So.
Yes. So very cool.
Yep.
The Doctor is dead. Long live the Doctor. So
exactly. So of course we've got a couple notable cast members, not that many. So we should get through that rather quickly first.
Okay.
First person I want to talk about in this story, Orla Brady, who plays Tasha Lem, the head of the religious order in this story. She played Lydia on the AMC series Into the Badlands, and she was Elizabeth Bishop, the wife of Walter Bishop, on the Fox series Fringe, if you're a Fringe fan. So yes, mother of Peter Bishop.
I am a big Fringe fan. I like that. I did.
So if you're a Fringe fan like I am, and you are, you're like, oh yeah, that's where I've probably seen her before.
I had not clicked that she was into the Badlands, but yes, I can see that.
Yep.
I really liked this character, and I think we'll get to more details, but there's the good and the bad with that character.
Well, obviously, she ends up getting killed off by the Daleks and replaced by a Dalek puppet.
Yes.
In this story. So we also had an actress named Sheila Reed, who played Clara's Gran, so Gran Oswald in the story. She was actually in a classic Doctor Who story way back in the day. She played Etta in a Colin Baker era story called Vengeance on Varos. So if you're a Colin Baker fan, you might remember her there. And then, of course, we had the return of Dan Starkey playing Centaurans, as always, which is always a pleasure to enjoy.
Absolutely.
We got an actor named Ken Bones, who has appeared previously as the General. He does a voice here. And then we also get the return of none other than Karen Gillan in a very bittersweet cameo appearance at the end as the 11th Doctor hallucinates seeing Amy Pond just before he regenerates. But it's always great to have Karen back, and it was great that she was there for Matt's final story, considering how close they are.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Supposedly they both had bald heads at the time.
Yes,
because of other roles, and as far as I know, no one took a photo of both of them with their bald heads, which is a missed opportunity.
Or at least that photo has not surfaced. Let's just put it that way.
That is correct. Absolutely.
Let's put it that way. But yeah, Karen, of course, was obviously filming Guardians of the Galaxy during this time period, and was playing Nebula, so that's why she had to have her head shaved for that role. And Matt, I forget, he was doing some other movie or whatever, and yeah, his head was shaved as well. He wasn't purely bald. They put a bald cap on him for this story, where he takes off his wig, and it shows a cleanly shaven head.
Right.
But that wasn't his natural cleanly shaven head. He had like a really short buzz going on.
Okay.
So. But obviously still a wig, so just
yes.
Yeah, it's a fun little Easter egg, and you're like, oh, they're both wearing wigs in this story. So, okay, so this is the final appearance of the 11th Doctor, and at least until hopefully a future reunion special down the line. And I want to get what's your general thoughts on this story before we get into the main discussion? Did you enjoy it?
I did not enjoy it as much in the rewatch.
Okay.
It
doesn't hold up for you?
It did not hold up for me as much. And I think it's partly, first off, a Christmas special is always special.
Right.
Because it's such a nice tradition, for us new and classic Who fans, that you get this little gift at Christmas. You've done everything, and now that they're actually showing it in Christmas Day here in the U.S., it's just a really lovely
treat
way to
for
end the
Who
day.
fans.
It is, and one of the few times Chris watches Doctor Who with me is he always watches the Christmas special with me.
Right.
So I have great, I have great affection for it. And so after you watch it, you're like, oh man, that was great. It was so wonderful to see Doctor Who. And so I'm watching this and I go, maybe this hurts it because we just had the anniversary special.
Oh, okay.
And so you're like, okay, we've got to ramp things up.
You're talking about the Day of the Doctor, the 50th
Yes.
anniversary special, yes.
Right. Which was just a month before.
Right.
It
comes off as like a letdown, is that what you're saying?
Or a swing and a miss. They tried to do something really grand. I know, let's have the Doctor stay, 100, 300 years defending a city, and I just don't know if it worked.
Right.
How about you, Charles?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that opinion because I think the story could have been better. I thought that there are some good moments in the story, but unfortunately, there's some bad moments in the story. And
Yeah.
and I think that um, Stephen Moffat, who had laid all of these unresolved plot threads throughout Matt's run,
Yes.
and 3 seasons of Matt's run, and here it is finally. Matt's ready to go, so Stephen Moffat's trying to kind of tie up some of those loose ends before he moves on with Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. And as a result, there's a lot, I mean, just a lot of just all these threads getting tied up that I don't think anyone just walking into this episode could enjoy it as well, because I mean, just you're throwing out all kinds of concepts, like with the regeneration limit, and and all this stuff with the silence, and the whole Doctor Who, his name, that whole mystery, and just it seems like a lot of stuff to kind of expect someone who's just kind of sitting down and maybe able to try to get into Doctor Who watching a Christmas special. I think this might leave them a little cold.
Yeah, and I have many questions that, as we discuss, will too. But I did need to see the crack in the wall again.
Right.
I'm glad they addressed the regenerations. So that was something I'm glad they covered, and I don't know how you don't cover that during this, his final appearance, but the head of the church comes out of nowhere.
Right.
They act like they've known each other forever. There's a flirting. There is almost a River Song vibe to it.
Right.
And you're like, well, where did that come from? And what is this? And the whole driving the TARDIS is easy. It's handling the Doctor is what's hard or something.
Right.
And I just I didn't understand the whole
like the whole business with Trenzalore being the final resting place of the Doctor.
Yeah, and the silence, and the monsters that okay, are they evil? Were they not evil? It was kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a lot of unnecessarily convoluted.
Yes.
Which is something you could say a lot about Stephen Moffat's era. Is that it tends to be just way too complicated for its own good. Like it's trying to be far too clever for its own good.
Yes,
and as a result, it just kind of trips over itself.
And they keep ramping up the cleverness and everything. The 50th anniversary special was amazing.
Right.
And I will have very little complaints about that. I have rewatched it. It is very rewatchable. It is a great story, and it just felt a little strange. Like, okay, we just had a major milestone.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got to do another one a month later.
Yeah, and we have to say goodbye to Matt.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, just I agree, but I mean, it seems like Moffat had this in mind, because if you notice with the story titles, we had the name of the Doctor, which ended Series 7, and
right.
then we had the Day of the Doctor for the 50th anniversary special. This episode, the Time of the Doctor, and of course the Night of the Doctor for the 8th Doctor special. I think that was just a little aside, but my point is that it's almost like Moffat wanted this to be like a trilogy to send off Matt, and I'm not sure how much he stuck the landing on this one.
That's an interesting, and if it is a trilogy, the third one is the weakest of the trilogy.
Right, I tend to agree.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah. All right. So with that in mind, obviously we've got a lot to consider and talk about here. Let's dive into the first topic. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. And of course, this is the 11th Doctor and the Town of Christmas. So we have Matt Smith, his final appearance, where he essentially gets stuck having to protect this town of Christmas on a planet that he's not quite sure what the name of the planet is, even though there are a bunch of people there that kind of live there, and he could just ask him what the name of the planet is. But that's not addressed. And he's having to kind of defend this between you've got the Daleks and the Cybermen and whatnot trying to get the Doctor, and to this whole they're trying to stop him from answering the first question and bringing back the Time Lords.
So it took you that long,
to explain
because it's so complicated.
So that kind of says something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That it's not a very his reasoning for being there isn't very clear cut and simple.
No, it isn't at all, and I don't think it works well. There is little bitty skirmishes, and we see him fighting a wooden Cyberman, or the angels being underneath the snow, and all these different villains. When it would have been, and once again I'm rewriting, and that's not my place, but that's what we do. It just seems like it would have been a better, more streamlined story if you'd had a little more purpose. Why does he have to do this? And why? I think it's a little.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I think it's a little bit, kind of, almost a cliche, or this, problematic. Why wouldn't we want the Time Lords to come back?
Right.
And everyone fighting against him being that. And the kind of complicated, only by giving your name will it's safe for us to come.
Right.
And therefore it's going to restart the time war all over again. It just all of these things seem to be very problematic to me.
Yeah, in the fact that the Doctor, despite having hundreds of years on this planet, can't figure out a way out of this stalemate before then. Yeah,
and is it necessarily has to be a stalemate?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I just thought it was a little bit.
In the simple explanation about why he's doing what he's doing is obviously to prevent the time war from restarting, because he doesn't want all those casualties. I have to think the Doctor, being as clever as he is, would figure a way out of this, because he, his nature is to wander time and space.
Yes.
I would think being stuck here for hundreds of years, especially after being trapped on Earth during the 70s for like a few years, drove him crazy. He couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
But here, I don't know, maybe it's just, if he was looking for something, maybe he was feeling a little remorseful for all of his actions. Maybe he saw this as some kind of penance, but we didn't get that kind of an explanation about why he was so perfectly okay with being there.
Yeah, and the whole...
And not feeling trapped.
And the whole, him... maybe this is just an excuse to show Matt Smith in old person makeup.
Right.
I
got that vibe too.
There's a famous, not famous, but Ron Moore doing Battlestar Galactica, the revamp.
Yeah.
Talked about sometimes. I didn't really I just thought it would be a cool image, and so I wrote around that cool image.
Right.
And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And if the image is just seeing Matt Smith being old, is a cool image. I don't know if it is.
Right. Yeah, I think in my opinion this is another example of Stephen Moffat's fondness for trying to make Doctor Who into a fairy tale.
Okay.
Because this story is essentially, hey, this Time Lord, comes to this planet and stays for hundreds of years, fighting off all these, attackers and he stays in a town called Christmas. It just seems like, it's like something you read out of Aesop's Fables or something
Right.
to me.
I agree.
And I think it's Moffat trying to push a concept that doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I agree.
In this final story. So, but Matt, let's talk about Matt's performance, because Matt, regardless of all the convoluted storytelling going on, I think Matt does a really good job with what he's given.
I would agree with that, Charles. I think, him liking the children.
Especially as an older doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Him liking the children, and, the earlier in the episode where there is this truth, spear or whatever, right. A truth field, and, him talking about things and
blurting things out, and then Clara blurts things out.
Yeah, so I think that was nice. But it is, I just think, and I'm going to say this multiple times, I felt like he deserved a better send-off.
Right.
And so at this point, it's a little early, but if I was ranking, modern regenerations, I'm like, Well,
would you rank this above David Tennant's or below David Tennant's? Or somewhere about the same?
I think a little bit below Tennant's.
Okay.
But, Eccleston and McGann's would be my favorite two modern errors. And then,
right.
I think.
What, no love for the War Doctor? Come on. No.
Well, the War Doctor was, yes. No, good point. Yes.
I'm just throwing that in. It was just more of a like, oh, hey, we're writing out the War Doctor. I guess we better make him regenerate. So it's not really much there.
Right. Yeah, that was like, of course I am, because it's over,
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yes.
My story is over, so I'm going to regenerate, of course. To kind of, tighten up that loose thread.
Yes.
So, I tend to agree. I think so far of all the modern Doctors, I think Eccleston has probably had the strongest regeneration story.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's not my all-time favorite, but I think of the modern era, I think it's my favorite.
Yeah.
So, all right, but so Matt does a good job. He has an interesting relationship with Clara, who he's a much older doctor now. He's kind of like frustrated because, according to him, her kind of leaping onto the TARDIS is what kept it from showing up and allowing him to come home.
Right.
So, do you, just, I guess that's probably the best explanation about why he stays there as long as he does. That it was just that he didn't have the TARDIS with him, but it just seemed like a far too convenient reason.
Yeah, and I know that Clara gets a lot of hate, and
yeah,
I don't know if that's richly deserved, but it does make me appreciate Bill so much more watching this. That just Bill was just, and I say just with she's a companion. She is, there is no mystery. There is no, the impossible girl and this whole thing that's, we've got this whole depth and thing and reminding everyone. It just seemed not needed.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Okay.
So now, since you brought up Clara,
Yes.
Let's move on to our second topic.
Okay.
Christmas, baby, please come home. Christmas. So you can see a little theme going here.
Yes, I do.
This is Clara and Christmas dinner, and I want to get your thoughts on the whole, like, you know, the 11th Doctor gets to do something wacky before he gets into the main adventure, which tends to be a staple of this era. And so this time we have the 11th Doctor gets a call from Clara as he's in the middle of dealing with Daleks and Cybermen and whatnot that, hey, you're my boyfriend and you're coming to Christmas dinner. And so he shows up, but he's naked at Christmas dinner. And
Okay.
and
The whole segment
yes.
is just foolish to me, and not
And
foolish
I
in a
felt really
fun way.
weird just talking about this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Because it's just so awkward.
it is. The whole it.
You didn't see Tom Baker or Peter Davison going around naked all
No,
the time.
and I don't understand the purpose. Is it just because? Okay, it's the Christmas special, so we should show some Christmas in there. I don't understand Claire's family dynamics,
Right.
but I just don't get this whole I need to have a boyfriend because it just doesn't make any sense. And then the whole,
It felt to me like a whole Three's Company kind of wacky sitcom premise.
And the 11th Doctor is not a stupid person.
Right.
And so the 11th Doctor would know he's supposed to wear clothes when he goes visit someone.
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Like he wouldn't think oh, well, hey, I'm going to church and therefore, oh, yes, just ignore me.
Yeah.
Now I get the fact, okay, yeah, he's an alien and yeah, he's going to maybe he's not all hung up on nudity like Earth folk are, but it does seem like, well, why all of a sudden does this incarnation feel the need to just constantly be naked for whatever reason?
Yeah, and it isn't like it's just out of a regeneration
Right.
and they're, foolish or this is my first experience, the whole fish out of water kind of, thing. Yeah, it didn't add to the story.
Right.
Especially
especially when he shows up naked
yes.
at the Christmas dinner.
Right.
It's one thing if okay, he's naked in the TARDIS and he's embarrassing Clara.
Right.
But then when he actually goes to the dinner.
Yes.
And it just seemed unnecessarily silly and pointless.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't get it. It was a very sweet scene with Clara's grandmother, and especially now that you shared with me she had been on the Classic Who. That was a really nice point, but it didn't
add anything.
Yeah, because once again, let's talk about when
I think it was trying to give Clara some background because we had seen her dad previously in the Rings of Akaten.
Yeah.
But apparently because Clara's mother died, he obviously hooked up with somebody else afterward.
Yeah.
And her grandmother is apparently still around, so I get that. We've seen other companions like Rose and Martha have family, and Donna. So I had no problem with that. But just this the whole gag with the turkey that apparently it has to take hundreds of years cooking in the TARDIS to finally get done. That's just. I mean, it's a funny line, right, where he says, "You've got to quit using the TARDIS to, do these mundane things." Right.
I think back, Charles, and you will remember the episode. But when when the 11th Doctor shows up at Amy and Rory's door,
Right.
and he says, she says, "Come in. There's a plate waiting for you." And and he's like, "Why?" And she goes, "Because it's Christmas. There's always a plate set for you." That was a sweet moment. This didn't come across sweet. It didn't come across funny. It was just unnecessary.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean,
Okay.
and I know we're kind of being a little brutal on this story because there are some good moments here, but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I think it's just the bad moments kind of are sticking out a little hard in this one.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and I think what's your thoughts on Jenna Coleman's like reactions to the Doctor getting older, and like just this seeing him. She doesn't seem like she's actually bothered by it.
No, it doesn't bother her. It doesn't look like it. And then I like the fact, one of the scenes that I do like is her saying, "Don't leave me again.
Right.
Don't send me away. I'm here. It's you and I." I think that was a nice moment. Though, the Doctor lies and that's not going to work out for her. But I thought that was a good moment. I don't know. She had a few good points, and I did like her scene and I may be jumping ahead, but when she talks to the Time Lords,
right?
And she makes her case for him. I thought that was a really well done scene, and
that was a good moment with her.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, and that's she's essentially she's pleading the Doctor's case for him to have the Time Lords give him another regeneration cycle.
So, however, if I'm Jenna Coleman, I'm like, okay, I've already been overshadowed in a lot of ways, having to follow, Karen Gillan, and though you bring her back, for the regeneration, it's not enough with me, and I will tell you, I was more happy seeing Amy Pond than I was Jenna doing that. I thought that was a more poignant, a touching, poignant moment.
Right.
So, yeah.
I just think that, Clara doesn't really click all that well with the 11th Doctor.
Right.
And it kind of started off with, I think when we first kind of got introduced, well, I want to say the second time, because the first time we were introduced to Oswald in Asylum of the Daleks, and they had this very kind of flirty relationship.
Yes.
And then we got that, when with her in The Snowman,
right,
where she's the Victorian governess, and and they also had kind of a very flirty relationship. And and as a result, they had really good chemistry. But as their relationship moved on, and with the whole thing, with she essentially started off having this crush on the Doctor, but it went nowhere. And as a result, I think their relationship kind of suffered.
You have said once before that you think that they should have saved Jenna for Capaldi.
Yes.
And that when Karen and
Arthur
left, that we should have, transitioned. And I think there's a lot to that. I mean, when you see, Amy in the TARDIS, this vision of her.
Right.
And then I think of flashing forward when the Doctor has his memory, the Capaldi Doctor has his memory wiped, and he's got his guitar, and he goes into the diner and talks about missing Clara, and that's a really wonderful scene. So I do think she was a better companion with Capaldi than she was with Smith.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So, all right. Anything else about Clara before we move on?
No, not at all.
All right. Well, okay. Third and final topic.
Okay.
On the 12th day of Christmas.
Nice.
And this is, of course, the regeneration. Matt regenerating into Peter Capaldi, so to speak. And want to get your thoughts on. We kind of talked about a little bit about the Time Lords and Clara. And we talked a little bit about seeing Amy. So the whole build up with the regeneration scene. And this is I think this was the highlight for me of this story because it's a great scene for Matt Smith for one. I think he has a really great as an exit scene goes. I think he got a good exit scene. The story leading up to it, maybe not so much, but his regeneration scene I thought was spot on. And and then we had these sentimental moments with him hallucinating. At first a young Amy Pond with an older Amy Pond comes to say goodbye to him. And I want to get your thoughts on all of that, if you would.
So I don't understand the Time Lord mechanics that you just can get a reset on regenerations just magically. Like all you have to do is wish really, really hard. So I don't get that.
Well, I think it's not something they dole out to everybody. It's just,
right.
I think it was just something that they kind of have in their back pocket. Although, if you have it, why aren't more Time Lords using it? Is my question.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But let's hand wave that away.
Right.
I agree with you. I think once he gets the regeneration,
right,
and he's young again, and he talks about this old face, and talks to Clara, kind of talks about remembering the doctor when he was me. I do think it's a good goodbye, and I think it is a sentimental regeneration, and I do love the fact that the girl who waited, Amy Pond, is the last thing he sees.
Right, and and he makes this great comment about how Amy was the first face this incarnation saw.
Right.
So he says like she's the first face this face saw.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense that it brings his era full circle. By having her there. So I totally get the importance of having her there. I agree that Clara, Jenna Coleman's probably like, hey, what am I, chopped liver over here?
Yes.
But yeah, it's just something I think everybody would wanted to see.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad they pulled it off. For me, the most powerful moment in that whole scene, that whole sequence, is when Matt loosens his traditional bow tie, the thing that kind of defined his doctor, and just it drops to the floor, the TARDIS floor, and with this kind of almost it was you make it feel like a 50-pound weight just thudded against the floor, because it was just such a powerful moment, and that's what got me. I mean, I think that's when I felt like, that's just like, oh, I don't want Matt to go.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think that was really powerful. The kind of his discussion, and to see that, because you're right, the bow tie was the iconic. There's suspenders, there's the scarf.
Yeah, the Tom Baker scarf, and Peter Davison's, decorative vegetable. And,
and so this was a truly, iconic, image, and to see him do that and just to drop it off was really well said.
Right, and it makes perfect sense because he's discarding this incarnation, so it's very symbolic.
Yes,
and again, it's just very powerful, and I thought that was, for me, that was the defining moment of that scene.
Absolutely.
Now, I was a little let down by how quick the regeneration takes place, because it's just this sudden, like, oh, snap your head back, boom, okay, it's a new Doctor.
Yeah.
And I get that Moffat wanted to try something different because we've had regeneration scenes. But because we've had all these regeneration scenes, having something so rushed, it felt rushed to me, and just like, like that's it, that's the regeneration scene. So, what did you think about that, the way that was handled?
Well, we didn't get a goodbye tour,
Right.
but
Thank goodness.
yeah, I think it was pretty quick, and it there is no consistency in this regeneration thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just fades away, and I realize it's because it's over a 50-year span of time, and different people writing it.
Right.
So it was kind of okay. Poof! Now I'm a new Doctor.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't get that with Capaldi regenerating into Jodie Whittaker.
Yes.
I'd like to think that, because there will be that buildup, and I don't think he's going to be that, like, blink and it's over.
Yeah.
Regeneration. I think it's going to be hopefully a little more substantive.
I hope so too.
And we'll see. But Capaldi has, makes a great debut here, of course. Talking about his kidneys.
Yes.
I don't like the color.
Yes.
And, his great little send off of, like, do you know how to fly this thing? And it's great.
Right. Absolutely.
So it was a great. And once again, you notice the TARDIS is placed in motion.
Right.
We talked about this with the End of Time, where for whatever reason the 10th Doctor, gets the TARDIS moving, traveling through time and space.
Right.
So of course it'll crash. And then here we have the 11th Doctor doing the same thing, and he's right away he's like, well, do you know how to fly this thing? So that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know why. I guess just for dramatic reasons, it looks good.
Right.
Well,
you want to think everything in chaos. You're like, oh, what's going to happen now? Because everything's in flux. But yeah, it just seemed a little forced to me. But
absolutely, I right there with you.
Yeah. So, just. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say that, as a reminder, when I watched this originally, I would have given it, oh, this was great. I'm sad to see Matt go. But as looking this again, you just go, don't get me wrong. It's Doctor Who. It's a Christmas special. I'm very happy that we got it and it's good. I'm just kind of doing Monday morning TARDIS steering.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one thing we forgot to talk about was was Matt's Doctor with Handles, the Cyberman head. And I thought those were some good scenes.
They were good scenes. It doesn't make any sense why Handles is there.
Well, it's like almost he's serving a canine type purpose.
Yes. But yes,
but you're like,
very funny.
But we don't get the story of, like, okay, how did he get Handles? Why why a Cyberman head? What happened here? I mean, we don't need it, but it would be.
But
nice.
It is funny when he says, "Okay, remind me that I need to, patch the telephone device back to the console unit."
Right.
And then immediately, Doctor, remember you need to, and that was funny, right?
Right.
So,
and then it becomes poignant when that is Handel's last words.
Right.
Right before he stops working.
Yes.
He crashes. So yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, great scenes with that. So I just I enjoyed that quite a bit. And then we got a bunch of explanations. Of course, we got we got a rundown of the whole explanation of the Madame Kovarian plot line. That apparently she was like a rogue faction of the Church of the Silence.
Yeah.
And the reason that she was like the big bad in series 6 was that she was trying to stop the Doctor from reaching Trenzalore.
Right.
But at the time, we had no indication of why she was there.
Yes.
Where she came from, what's her deal.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, I guess we needed to explain this. And this is what, Moffat just kind of like, oh, here's the explanation.
Yes.
Which I, of course, knew all along.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but I'm like, yeah, so. All right. Okay. Do you have any favorite lines of this episode, unless there's anything else you want to talk about?
No. A couple of good lines. The trouble with Daleks is they take so long to say anything.
Yeah.
Probably die of boredom before they shoot me.
I like that one. That was one of
that's a pretty good line.
Yeah. I like that. I liked a little bit of the banter with Clara and the 11th Doctor when she calls him up to be her boyfriend.
Yes.
And, Clara's like, emergency, you're my boyfriend. And the 11th Doctor's like, ding dong, okay, brilliant. I may be a bit rusty in some areas, but I will glance at a manual. And, and Clara's like, no, you're not actually my boyfriend. And the 11th Doctor replies, oh, that was quick. It's a roller coaster, this phone call.
Yeah, I love the when the Doctor kind of talks to himself, yes, I'm dying.
Yeah.
You've been trying to kill me for centuries, and here I am dying of old age. If you want something done, do it yourself. I thought that was a pretty good line.
Right. And let's see. I've got the Daleks confronting the Doctor, threatening him, the older Doctor, and they say, you will die now, Doctor. This is the end of you. The rules of regeneration are known. You have expended all your lives. And the Doctor replies, sorry? What did you say? Did you mention the rules? Now listen, bit of advice. Tell me the truth if you think you know it. Lay down the law if you're feeling brave. But Daleks, never, ever tell me the rules.
Yeah, that is a very good line. And it also is a really good kind of summation of the Doctor, right? That, I'm going to break the rules. Right. I'm going to do.
Yeah, he's always the anti-authority, a rule breaker, and that's why we love him. So. Yeah,
and then we had the everything ends, Clara, sooner than you think. So, I liked it.
Yeah, that was also good. And then of course we got his final lines.
Yes.
We all change when you think about it. We're all different people, all through our lives. And that's okay. That's good. You got to keep moving as long as you remember all the people that you need to be, or that you used to be. I will not forget one line of this. Not one day. I swear. I will always remember when the Doctor was me.
And that's a really good regeneration line.
It's a great send-off.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tenna fans, but
exactly.
This is a little more noble than
it is. It's a really good line, and it also is a good advice for just in not just in Doctor Who life, but when you put it on in that way, it was really well done. Yes,
he was appreciative of his time.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it came out really well. So I like that a lot.
All right, Charles, with all our complaints, what are you going to give it?
I am going to give this one 8 out of 10 discarded bow ties.
I am right there with you. I am going to give it 8 out of 10 Christmas crackers.
Nice.
So
we're in sync this week.
Yes, it is. Nothing. Like I said, it's Doctor Who. I love it. It's just, I'm trying not to be overly hard on it, but at the same time, there were the things that were bad, and the things that were good. So, nice.
All right, sounds good. Okay. Now it's time, of course, to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
Very nice. Now, are we doing that before we do feedback?
We can do either, whichever you
No,
want.
no,
You,
let's
you want
do.
to do? You want to do feedback
Yeah,
first?
no, let's do reverse the
All right.
polarity.
Well,
What do you got?
I'll try and keep it short here. So, so before I get into the story that I selected, one of the things that took place in the time of the Doctor that we did not talk about was a moment where the Doctor pulls out the seal of the High Council that he once took off the Master in the Death Zone. He makes that comment.
Okay.
Now, okay, if you aren't an old school Doctor Who fan like yours truly, you may be scratching your head going, Death Zone, what the hell is he talking about?
I did
And
not catch that, so please
yeah,
edify me.
so the seal of the High Council uh, that the Doctor got off the Master in the Death Zone is a reference to a little story called The Five Doctors.
Ooh.
Yeah, and this was the 20th anniversary special from 1983, written by Terrence Dicks. And now, this was a big Gallifrey episode because we obviously, we had five doctors. Well, technically four. Well, technically three of the original doctors, and then one doctor that was played by a different actor. While Tom Baker was off, trapped in a limbo realm because he didn't want to come back to Doctor Who so soon after having left. So,
Right.
so it's kind of like, three and a half doctors maybe.
Okay.
But it's called The Five Doctors. And the premise of this story is that there's a mysterious, nefarious entity is using what's called a time scoop, forbidden technology on Gallifrey, to bring several incarnations of the Doctor, including some companions like Susan, Sarah Jane, and the Brigadier, and of course some enemies like the Daleks and the Cybermen from their respective time streams, to what's known as the Death Zone on Gallifrey, which was a region on Gallifrey that the Time Lords used to, back in their older, even more crueler days, used to have like alien races fight against one another for their amusement, almost like gladiator style. And so they forbade the technology, but someone has decided to use that for some purposes. And so we had various incarnations of the Doctor that are kind of scattered, but come together. And as these various incarnations of the Doctor are wandering the Death Zone, we have the third Doctor, John Pertwee's Doctor, and one of your favorites, Jesse.
Yes, indeed.
So he runs into the Master during this indication. Now, the Master turns up in the Death Zone because he is recruited by the Time Lord High Council to help the Doctors, and he's offered a pardon for all of his crimes, and is offered a new cycle of regenerations. So this is the first time that we get the little tidbit that the Time Lords can offer someone a new cycle of regenerations.
Ooh, nice.
And so the Master's like, okay, I'll do it. And so he's given a seal of the High Council by the Castellan from the High Council to prove his credentials to the other doctors and like, see, hey, look, I'm working for the Time Lords, so back off. And he's given a transmat recall device so he can transport himself out of there if necessary. So he goes into the Death Zone, and the Master meets the third Doctor but fails to convince him to help. And the Doctor thinks that the Master seal of the High Council is a forgery, and when the Master hands it over to try to prove it's real, the Doctor's like, I'm confiscating this, and I'll return it at the first opportunity to the Time Lords.
And
so because he figures, well, the Master just stole this. And so, of course, the first opportunity turns out to be, oh, hey, eight incarnations later, well, nine incarnations later, with Matt's 11th Doctor. So he finally pulls that little chestnut out of nowhere after all this time and uses it in the time of the Doctor. So
I will have to check that out.
Yeah, well, A good idea,
Hint,
considering
hint.
hint. So yeah, so stay tuned for more on
Yeah,
that subject.
exactly.
But so I won't get into more of the story because
Okay,
I have a feeling we're going to talk about that rather quickly. So
absolutely. Good.
but yeah, so that's the significance of that seal that was used in the time of the Doctor. So now you get a little backstory. So and why it was so
Yeah.
important. And like I said, you also get the that first that little Doctor Who mythos tidbit that the Time Lords can offer someone a new cycle of regenerations if they want to.
Very nice. Cool.
Although why they don't do it more often, who knows?
Yeah, doesn't
Who
make any
knows?
sense
Who
at all.
knows? Eh? Who knows? So,
Exactly.
all right. So we do have feedback, and before we get into our regular feedback, we got a comment on Southgate Media Group is kind enough to post Next Stop Everywhere episodes on YouTube on the YouTubes for all the millennials out there that follow this stuff there, and we got a comment. So it was emailed to Southgate Media Group. So Rob, our editor, was kind enough to forward that on. So a YouTube viewer named Doch Ree,
Okay.
DOCH space RY, writes in and says, or at least he posted a comment, why does no one criticize the fact that the 11th Doctor went on a 200-year farewell tour in Series 6? Time has never laid a glove on me. So, so I think he's talking about where the 11th Doctor, what, showed up at the beginning of Series 6 in The Impossible Astronaut. You know, like it had been some time.
Yes.
But so I guess he's wondering why, because I think he's referring to our discussion about the end of time where David Tennant went on his farewell of regeneration tour and how we're like, well, it's kind of like, why is it taking so long for the Doctor to regenerate and stuff like that? So, so I think this is Doc Ree's way of trying to, equalize
Mm-hmm.
or equate the 11th Doctor with that. So what are your thoughts on that, Jesse?
I assume it's just adventures that happen off screen, and so they're just it's what he normally does. He goes and he does his things and has fun and has adventures that we just never saw.
Right.
That's how I viewed it as.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I don't think I think it's kind of a false equivalency to try to compare Tennant's regeneration with the Sixth Doctor going off and wandering time and space for 100 years and coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, he's not dying in the process.
Right.
So there's not a regeneration in play. But also, it's just like we know the Doctor, there are these gaps,
Yes.
between episodes. And it makes sense that, oh, hey, maybe, Matt's Doctor just happened to have like 100-year gap or whatever here and there. So,
And is there a chance, in that, he picked up a companion and had
Right.
adventures and moved on,
Exactly.
elsewhere in that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Like there could have been like an unrevealed companion or maybe, like this would be like if there are future Big Finish stories with the 11th Doctor, if Matt's kind enough to do stories for Big Finish, well, hey, maybe he'll get a Big Finish audio companion and maybe those stories will take place during that time period.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just one of these kind of like little gaps that like other authors or whatnot could tell stories in.
I agree.
So
Totally.
I think it's a different situation. Even in this story, in the time of the Doctor, like you got what, the first gap is like 900 years. The first time he waits for Clara, and then another 300 years after he sent her home, and then she came back. Or no, I'm sorry, it was like 300 and 600. I'm sorry.
Because he and Handels had this
whole
whole series of adventures.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so And even that was just like he wasn't regenerating. It was just him living a very long lifespan, which is why he's naturally aged.
Yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Just, like if you went off and had like a whole life before you came back and visited your friends or family or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to bring that up since we got that comment forwarded to us.
Yes, we appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. So thanks, Doc. And what's up, Doc? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No.
And so we did get our regular feedback this time from Holly Mack first, who wrote in. Hey guys, I forgot how much I enjoyed this Christmas special, referring, I guess, to the Time of the Doctors. Time of the Doctor. The Doctor and Handles make quite the team.
Yes, they do.
I have to say, I love the opening title sequence. Very cool. Clara's phone call to the Doctor needing help and an emergency boyfriend had me laughing. Wonder if the robot boyfriend that the Doctor is referring to isn't Chameleon from the Fifth Doctor era. Ooh, that's a good point.
Ooh, nice.
And let's see here. Hold on. Whoop. Looks like what's going on here? This, of course, Gmail is updating while I'm reading this. So it's not letting me in. All right, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. But technology.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go.
Skype.
Yeah. Well, this is
Yeah.
Gmail. Let's see. Weeping Angels in the Snow is very creepy and gives us a whole new meaning to snow angels. I see what you did there.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and I agree. I like that. I thought that was a very effective use of the Weeping Angels in that snow scene. When I watched that the first time, I was just like, I was kind of struck, but it was like, wow, a snowy, like, landscape where you have hard time seeing is perfect for the Weeping Angels. And
it really is.
I thought it was used very effectively. So I totally agree with you there, Holly. The truth field in the town of Christmas is very interesting. The crack that is there. Oh, Gmail, you're killing me here.
I have it. The truth field in the town of Christmas is very interesting. The crack that is there ties back to when the Doctor first met Amy. Nice how things tie together. I felt sad when Handles died. He grew on me. The regeneration scene was touching and quick with not a whole lot of regeneration flair like 9 and 10. Yeah, there was not it was a non-J.J. Abrams regeneration. Thank you. When I first saw this, I chuckled at the 12th Doctor's kidney comment and couldn't wait to see him in action. I'll wrap it up here. Talk to you soon. Holly from Wisconsin. And then she sent us a PS.
Yes.
If you're interested in finding out about a few more adventures that the Doctor went through in the town of Christmas, I recommend the book Doctor Who, The Tales of Trenzalore. It has 4 short stories in it, and I enjoyed them. Right. I have not read that, so
I haven't read that either. But I've heard some that it's got some good stories in it. So
good.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just off the cuff, definitely recommend that along with Holly because I've heard some good things about it.
Good.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, do you have Paul from Australia?
I do not.
You do not.
Yeah.
Because my phone is acting up. So,
okay.
Come on. All right. Well,
if you send it to me, I can read it and edit it in.
Right.
If it's okay.
That's okay. I mean, if worst comes to worst, we could save it for next episode. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but so apologies to Paul, but unfortunately my phone is acting up. So.
Yes.
All right. But apologies to Paul. We'll get you next time. I promise. All right.
Okay.
All right. So on this rather disorganized note, apologies to everybody for all the chaos.
That's okay.
Things happen, I guess. And so next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk about a little story you may have heard of called The Five Doctors.
Yes.
So that that Five Doctor story that I mentioned in Reverse the Polarity? Well, guess what? We're going to review that because, hey, November 23rd is Doctor Who's 54th anniversary. And that's coming up next week.
Yes.
So, Jesse, I know this is kind of a quick turnaround for you,
Yes.
and I don't know if you have the episode or not.
I do. Thank you, Ken Schaefer.
All right. Cheers
Yes.
to Ken Schaefer, friend of the show,
Yes.
for hooking Jesse up
Yes.
with that.
I have the episode, so I plan to watch it, and we're planning to get a quick turnaround, and we need to edit this one, and I don't know if I'll probably try to get to that tomorrow.
Okay.
Edit so we can get it out this week. If not, maybe we'll do 2 episodes Thanksgiving week. So, but yes, we're planning to talk the Sunday before Thanksgiving to do the 5 Doctors.
Yeah. So obviously this is a big story, one I've been wanting to get to for a while. But
Good.
But the reason we're doing this because there's a certain actor by the name of Richard Herndl who plays the first Doctor. He's the first actor to actually replace a previous actor, William Hartnell, as one of the Doctors, and in an actual in-canon continuity story. So, that's something that's coming up on our Christmas special with a certain actor by the name of David Bradley as the first Doctor. So David Bradley will be the third actor to play the first Doctor. Everybody got that? And
yes.
It's a little confusing, I realize. But so I thought this would be a great time to kind of watch the 5 Doctors and kind of get a feel for what it's like to have somebody besides William Hartnell playing the first Doctor.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts. And this is one of my favorite stories, so spoilers, I really like this one.
Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Reading it. I think I've watched a little bit of it. I don't know if I sat down and watched all of them in a row, so I plan on doing that very quickly so we can talk about it Sunday.
Yeah, I love it. I love it from the pre-opening credits sequence right to the end.
Okay,
and,
awesome.
So yeah, this is actually a classic Doctor Who story that has something going on before the credits.
Ooh, okay.
So definitely worth checking it out. So pay attention. All right. So with that in mind, if you'd like to get a hold of us here at Next Stop Everywhere, and hopefully my phone will be working by then, you can reach us at Next Stop Everywhere Next Stop Everywhere SMG. Don't forget the SMG at gmail.com. So you can email us just like Holly and Paul, and or you could drop us a line on the Twitter machine at NextStopSMG on Twitter, and or you can reach us on our Facebook page, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, and please like and follow us there. We would definitely appreciate it. And while you're at it, hey, on iTunes, why don't you drop us a line and give us a review of what you think about our show, good or bad. We'd love to hear from you, just to get some kind of rating, because it helps people find us on the iTunes.
It absolutely does.
And Jesse, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW.
Yeah.
I am also on Facebook, Jesse Jackson, Louisville, Texas. You can hear me talk about Bruce Springsteen on Next Stop Everywhere. And
we can hear you talk about Bruce Springsteen on Next Stop Everywhere.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm taking over. Yes, on Set Listing Bruce.
I mean, I know you
drop
the reference every so often, but
yes.
All right.
Yeah. In fact, I'm trying to pull up our iTunes to see where we are with reviews. So that's why I was looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah. So let us know about that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've got a couple of interesting episodes coming up on Set Listing Bruce. So please check that out. Charles, how about yourself? Where can they find you?
You can find myself at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen. And Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs. And my blog, Geeky Things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about Next Stop Everywhere and Doctor Who and all kinds of comic and sci-fi goodness. Just recently posted my Thor Ragnarok review, and going to be posting my Justice League movie review here shortly, as well as a bunch of comics and sci-fi news that posted recently. So please check that out.
Yes, I missed our normal recording time going to see Thor.
Yes.
So it was a good movie, though. So I missed our recording for a good reason. Yeah.
I see
but
how it is.
There was,
I
yeah,
see
there
how
was a
it
little
is.
mix-up. I am hoping to get to see Justice League this weekend as well. I agree with your review. Thor was really well done.
Yep.
So, yeah, just so you guys know, we have 32 ratings on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast on iTunes.
And thank you for those, by the way.
Yes, and but the last review we got was in June of 2017.
Whoa.
So we would love some newer people giving us a little love.
Yep, that would be great. And like I said,
Yes.
It helps people find our show on iTunes.
It does.
So it helps grow the community, and we want to make this big for you guys as well as helping us. So it's kind
Absolutely.
of a win-win as far as we see it. So help us out if you would.
I agree.
And
Absolutely.
if you do, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate it. We can't do it without you.
Absolutely.
All right. And as for my other two podcasts that I do, the Fandom Zone podcast that I do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, where we talk about comic book TV shows, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, and where we review all kinds of Twin Peaks goodness, including various books and audio CDs and whatnot, now that the return has finished. And if there's any news about what's coming on with Twin Peaks, that will be there as well. So please check that out.
Awesome.
And Jesse, we need to get started on our other project.
Yes, we do.
The holidays are coming up, so maybe we ought to take advantage of that.
Yes, we do. You and I should we should talk offline and come up with some time. Yes, because I am ready.
All right.
I am so ready.
All right, so we need to start planning. So it's time to get serious and get that going.
Absolutely.
So that we can annoy you, all you people, even more with all our ramblings.
Yes. So, Charles, thank you so much as always. I have a quote.
Oh, what's your quote?
There are two sides today, Barbara. Those who rule by fear and treachery, and those who fight for reason and justice. Anyone who betrays those principles is worse than the devil in hell. That is from The Reign of Terror. It was,
nice.
Jules Renan. And not to get too political, but with our current climate, thought it was a good thing to remind everyone.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it is the French Revolution. So,
there you go. Yes.
Yeah. Little comparisons there.
Yes.
So, thanks, Jesse. Thank you much. And thanks to you, everyone who's been listening to Next Stop Everywhere. And we will see you next time. Episode 99. The 5 Doctors. Come on back. It's going to be a great one. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.